Now, you were in Tampa for how long before you started hearing rumblings about Orlando?
I think I got there in like September, maybe.
I think, yeah.
I was gonna say I could probably give you a ballpark just because I remember I was on vacation at Disney World and we were texting about, and you were talking about potentially having to move to Orlando.
It was pretty close after I got there. I mean, it was like, I think we got there in September, and then like maybe like November officially. There was like rumblings, like there was always like they're gonna open a facility and it's gonna be like army barracks and we're gonna have cots and we have to stay there or something like that. And it's like, oh god, that sounds awesome. No, not really. But there was like legitimate like a rumor I heard. It was like that was like a thing. And then I think it was like at the November TV where we all pulled into the room after, and they were just like, yeah, so you guys have heard rumblings, blah, blah, blah. We're going to move to Orlando. It's going to be a real big facility. I think they were aiming for like whatever, January or February or something like that. So it was pretty much like sign a lease for a year and then like, oh yeah, by the way, you shouldn't have done that. and also we definitely knew about this. So like
you hadn't been down there very long. Or?
No. It was only like 2 or 3 months, I think.
So you had to move to Orlando.
And, so how did they sell it to you guys? Like how did they... Like, talking about the facility.
They took the approach of they went to, I think that year, WrestleMania was in like a football stadium or something. And then they basically said, like, we gone to like the nicest of the nicest strength and conditioning facilities for, just about every sport, probably in prospecting buildings, but also probably prospecting like, I think the understanding was like, why aren't we investing in this? At that time, NXT was actually making them quite a bit of money. And they really weren't investing a lot into it. You're not paying travel. You're not paying major building expenses. They were filming it. Originally, they were filming it in Tampa. And then when they were filming it at Full Sail, I'm pretty sure they don't pay Full Sail. I think it's like a really big value add for students there. Like they get to volunteer. Now, I don't know if that's changed. But, basically, they had this like $10+ million a year business. And it's like, well, we have them, training in it was a warehouse. Like our warehouse was connected to a literal warehouse. Like we were another half of a warehouse that had been renovated, but it was literally like, it was a warehouse. So I think it was sold really as like, we need to invest, and why wouldn't we invest? And we're this massive company. Why wouldn't we have our own facility? Why wouldn't we do it our own way? Why wouldn't we finally take the step to say it's no longer supposed to be paying dues and punishment? It should be like an honor and privilege to get in here. But when you get in here, we're going to treat you like a fucking athlete. You're going to be like, if you sign with the Patriots, you're going to go to a prime facility because they're athletes. That's what
it's like a university now. Like this is like the Harvard of...
Yeah, totally.
Harvard of pro wrestling kind of thing.
Totally. It's the thing of, so if you got hurt at practice, you would go into Brian Duncan's office, the thing, and it was literally like an offshoot, like a couple of drywalled walls in the corner of it with like one little table on it, a bunch of shit, no room to do anything. It's like, again, to me coming in like, wow, we only had like Band-Aids. That's great. This is an upgrade. To him, who's like a PT and, has whatever certifications he has, he's like, yeah, this place is like way too small. We have like 50, 60 talent. Like we need a facility. So it's just like a very different mindset and approach to what developmental was. Developmental was always kind of like, pay your dues, don't invest in this. It's really about cultivating talent. The right people will come through. They should learn how to work towns. They should learn what, wrestling in a shitty place is. And it's like, yeah, that's true. But I think the understanding is, you don't build superstars by treating them like, whatever.
Right.
Nobody's. So it's like, it's not necessarily they don't have to pay dues. Everyone at the Performance Center works really hard. It's just, these are professional athletes. They should be treated. There should be a full gym there and a strength and conditioning program. There should be a full rehab center. There should be means to produce green screens and cameras that can go live to TV and, rings and lighting and locker rooms and like all these things that, I think, again, every real professional athlete would say like, yeah, that's clearly how this would be, right? I think.
So when you got there to the Performance Center, I know you had mentioned to me before that there are like cameras everywhere, and you felt kind of like maybe Big Brother was watching.
Yeah. Again, so like there was definitely cameras. There was definitely no secret that any of those cameras could be pulled up on the phone, even of a Triple H or a Vince McMahon, and it actually happened a few times. I remember I think Terry, I almost said Terry Funk, Terry Taylor was leading his class one time, and his phone rang, and he picked it up, and he goes, "Oh, it's Triple H." He picked up the phone, he goes, "What? Huh?" It's like a very much like an old man, like, "What do you do? You plug it into what?" And he's like, "What? What do you mean? Oh, you're watching me? How are you watching me?" And it's like he turned on, "Everyone wave, Triple H is watching us." And it's like, well, that's weird. But it was. It was definitely possible. I think the myth is always bigger than reality, right? It's the same thing. It's like I don't really think that any of these people are like wasting their time. Like, what the hell is Enzo Amore doing on Tuesday? It's like I don't give a shit, dude. I just need to be able to see it. If there's something I need to see, I need to be able to see it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I necessarily believe like Big Brother was watching, but Big Brother could technically watch.
Right. So who are your favorite coaches there at the Performance Center?
Oh man, probably top had to be Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah?
Steamboat was fucking awesome. I say it like he's dead. He's not dead. He's fine. But like he was so good. He was so fun to work with. I mean, so like there's a guy who like got 30, 40 years in the business. He still had more passion about wrestling than like anyone ever. And this includes like 19 and 20-year-olds who are at the Performance Center and blah, blah, blah. He's just like so jazzed about wrestling. Like it was like his shit. And he would just get so excited about a spot he wanted to do. I remember he slapped the referee in the face. Not like in a bad way, but like he's all about like emotion. And I mean, we watch his wrestling. He's like a very like intense, certainly entertaining, but like, just a lot of intensity, right? And he was trying to do something about, he wanted to do a slap spot in class, which was super weird. So we ended up, it's like a room full of people.
Just slapping each other.
Just pretty much slapping each other in the face. It was one of those things where like, I think it was like me and like Luke Harper and maybe one other person. We're all just like looking at each other like, what the fuck is going on right now? Like we're in WWE's, this is in Tampa still. We're in WWE's Philly just like slapping the shit out of each other. But the way he like led into it was like, it was a group of us. We were his class. And so like we warmed up. He's like, all right, guys, come on. And he grabbed the ref whose name I'm forgetting. And I apologize. He's an awesome dude. Bonsai. There you go. I don't remember his real name.
Brian.
Yeah. He's awesome. But so he's like, yeah, Bonsai, come here. And he's like, so sometimes talk about emotionality. He's kind of and then like out of literally nowhere, he just slapped the shit out of him. Everyone in the class was like, oh my God.
Did it go down?
No, but he was like literally, you saw his face like, what the fuck? So he's like, no, I'm sorry. I just was trying to prove a point. But yeah, he just was like, one of the boys, just really down to earth, really into just learning how to work, very approachable. He would watch matches and not just give you the like, yeah, good job, kid. Like he really wanted to see people succeed. And so, he was actually one of my first advocates. Actually, I worked, whatever my first match there was, I worked a tag match, and he was the agent. And I remember this, and this is going to sound like I'm putting myself over, and probably am a little bit, but legitimately this is like one of the most meaningful things ever. He said, and I'm going to fuck it up, so it doesn't really sound that meaningful, but it's something to the lines of, he goes, holy shit, kid, I didn't know you could work like that. It was almost the same thing as Jamie Noble said, which is a weird compliment, but even so, or something like that, and he said, you're really good. And I was like, dude, great, I can go now. Like Ricky Steamboat said it, William Regal said it, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like, it's fine now, whatever. The rest of it's cake. It's fine. So, yeah, he was great. Billy Gunn was a lot of fun. Norman's awesome. Norman Smiley. I mean, he was just like, I still say to this day, so underutilized. He's kind of like the new kid coach. That dude's like a mad scientist of wrestling. He's like so good. And I don't want to say he's wasted. I mean, he certainly has applications for everybody. But his just ability to just kind of put things together in his own unique way, he's super talented.
So during this time, I remember while you were down there, we would obviously talk, and they were trying to find something for you. And I remember you talking pretty extensively about like working with the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, who's now obviously passed away. But like, what was that relationship like? What did that mean to work with him? What was it like to work with him?
I mean, awesome. There's a guy who like literally had done it all at a time when like it was really hard to do it all. just, he'd also been through the business not just as like a top tier talent. He clearly had been through it as pretty much every facet through all of the decades of wrestling. So, talk about somebody who just like has forgotten more than you'd ever know. Like that's pretty much who he was. And he was just like a real cool dude to hang out with. He liked to just talk shit, and he would blast Purple Rain before promo class, and it was like his thing. And it was
all right.
Yeah, it was just like he would yell at Rob Naylor, who was kind of like his assistant-ish. I don't know. It was like a weird position. But he would just say, like, play that song, and just Purple Rain would just come on and...
And now they're both up there together.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's true.
Prince, not Rob Naylor.
Yeah,
no.
Yeah, Rob Naylor is dead. No. But yeah, no, it was really cool. I mean, it's one of those things like the normalcy of it gets weird, I think, because it's just like, yeah, it's Thursday. It's Art of Communication with Dusty Rhodes.
I'm just going to hang out with Dusty Rhodes today.
But like, and every so often I would say it. I'm like, oh yeah, I got to go to class right now. I'm like, to fucking promo class with Dusty Rhodes, because that's normal. It was like very surreal, and that almost made it comfortable.
It's like the epitome of like what, like when you're thinking about being a wrestler when you're as a kid, and you're just like that becomes your reality.
Yeah, I mean, it was again, a lot of that stuff wasn't so like crazy. It was just surreal a lot of times, because again, you're talking and getting feedback, and you're engaged in like a real dialogue with Dusty Rhodes or with Ricky Steamboat, and it's like you're there in that moment talking to these people, and like, yeah, okay, I was thinking this, and you were saying that, and okay, that's a good piece of advice, and then you stop for a second, you're like, that was Ricky Steamboat. That's so weird. You know what I mean? It's like it's
dragon.
It's like arm drag me. And it's the same with Dusty. I mean, it's like it was very normal because he was around, and it was like every Thursday you do your thing, and you ask for time with him, and you go sit down and you talk about whatever, and it's like end of the day you're just laying in bed and you're like, yep, just had that meeting with Dusty Rhodes today. That's like a thing.
Oh, those are the meetings where he was like, "That's not for you, baby. That's for somebody else."
Yeah, something like that.
I remember literally joking about that with you when you were trying to come up with characters or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, "I'm just gonna pretend that Dusty Rhodes said to you,
yeah, I mean,
that's not for you, baby. That's for somebody else."
It's close enough. It probably did. It's fine. It's probably did.
Another kind of like a famous story of like a quote he would I always got a kick out of when Dusty he doesn't get out of bed for. Do you know what I'm getting at here?
Oh, yeah, that was something. I think there was something with like the Legends or something like that on TV, and he's like, they're on TV, and he's probably huffing and puffing because he wasn't called or something like that. But he said something to the effect of, "Motherfucker, I don't get out of bed for less than $10,000." Like, okay, unsolicited, but sure, I believe you.
You're talking about coming up with a character or some kind of a deal in NXT, and when we were texting about doing this interview, you sent me a picture of you in a top hat and a nice gentleman's coat. Now, do you want to get into how this character came about?
That was something that Dusty was trying to put together for Aiden English originally. Mm-hmm. He loved Gangs of New York and Lincoln. He just thought those were great movies, and so, which is fine. I mean, yeah, sure, great. But he wanted somebody to have some sort of like an old-timey fighty character. And so he kept saying it for Aiden English. Aiden English was doing like a more drama-centered gimmick, which was great too. I mean, that dude's super entertaining. They finally wanted to put it on somebody, and I guess it ended up being thought that I could fit that role. So the conversation was something about the Stovetop Hat Gang or something. Something silly. I mean, that was just like his weird Dusty Rhodes nickname for something that's like clearly not going to be called that. Or the Lincoln Fight Club. The Lincoln Fight Club. Holy shit, I forgot about that. That was it. He called us the Lincoln Fight Club. Oh my God, that's so funny. Anyways, but yeah, so he was like, he wanted to do this thing, so we decided to kind of put these things together for his promo class and kind of see if we could make it work. And we worked, I think, some house shows together.
There are a couple pictures out there floating around on Google if you search.
There are. What's funny is
English.
The most ridiculous tall top hat is actually not even a top hat. It was like a bowler that they had at like some costume store. And we drove around, me and him drove around Tampa for like 2 hours, maybe longer, to like any place we could think of that would have a fucking top hat. No one did. They only had like a costume store. They had like these shitty little bowler hats, like the little the round ones.
Top.
Yeah. So we did that, and then we went to like Michael's and got like some stiff felt and just wrapped it around it and glued it. And I was like, honestly, it kind of looks like a top hat. Like we can get away with this. I don't think either one of us realized how tall it actually was, and we saw it on camera. We're like, well, that looks a little fucking ridiculous. I think that was like the first feedback we ever had a match. What's her name? Sarah Del Rey was the agent, and she came to us. She's this was good. This you might want to think about. Blah blah blah. Those tats are really tall. And I was like, yeah, yeah, we're working on that part. So, Lincoln Fight Club.
It's almost like a precursor to maybe the vaudevillains who are on TV now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I mean that is the character. It was something like that. I think the vaudevillain part of it was a lot of a Regal inspiration. When I got hurt, they were still looking for something for that role, and that's when Gotch had gotten signed, and he already did a character like that like Regal loved. And so it was kind of like a marrying of both of the ideas together. And that was, that's pretty much the character they're on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm way out of touch, unfortunately. I saw it on his Facebook, though, and I was like, he so deserves it.
Is that bitter old guy now?
Yeah, these kids running around. No. I mean, Aiden English, he's such a good dude. Such a good dude.
So you mentioned getting hurt. You had a neck injury, correct? Or is it
cue the somber music?
Yeah, we'll add that in post.
Yeah, yeah. I was wrestling a match. I took a weird bump. Definitely felt something weird, but was like okay. I mean, I thought in that moment I was like, well, I can walk. I feel okay. It just felt really shitty.
Right.
Kept wrestling. Finished the match. A little bit of pain. Talked to the trainer. Wrestled the next night. A little bit of pain. A little bit of ice. Stiffened up. Over the weekend when we stopped, obviously, because I think it was like Saturday, Sunday off or something. Monday I went in, like couldn't move my neck. Did some like PT and some like whatever. Did just rehab therapy, like ice and massage and blah 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 for like a week, and then I was fine. I mean, I thought I was fine, and then a few months later of wrestling, I found out it's quite a bit more serious.
Yeah, was it a spinal stenosis? Was the diagnosis?
Why, yes, Michael, it was. Yeah. So a thinning of the spinal canal due to, being dropped, unfortunately.
So it stems from that one, or is it more like a cumulative type thing?
Since I've been diagnosed, I've heard conflicting reports one way or the other. I think definitely that event, whatever was going on there, certainly put the nail in the coffin. Now, whether or not it was a build-up over time or it was that specific event, I actually legitimately don't know. Like I said, I've seen a few different doctors, and a few of them did say, like, nope, it's this one thing. Who knows? It's not like something I can prove one way or the other, or what or would care to. Like, it's like either way, I have shit neck syndrome, so it's like whatever.
So they had you on the shelf for a while, right? And when did they finally say you can't get in the ring anymore?
So I had talked to when we first reported for the Performance Center. It was like a Monday or something like that, and it was like, everyone show up, business casual. We're gonna have an official day, and then they had like a bunch of new talent come in, who was like waiting to start, and they started that day. We all came in. I think that there was a press conference that day. That might have been the thing that's like with everyone standing around it, the rings or whatever. And then like we did like some kind of fake ass workouts to like, whatever, so people could take pictures and such, exactly. That day or the next day, I had gone to see the trainer and just said, hey, my neck has been bothering me. I'm having this weird numbness. I'd like to just, especially in that facility, like do some prehab stuff, kind of strengthen the area, blah, blah, blah.
Where is the numbness?
If I got hit in the neck or head, it happened a few different times. Like I like dropped down to my knee in a match one time on a show, and when I dropped down to my knee, I lost feeling in my arms for like 15 seconds. Super weird, yeah.
Yeah.
And then like one time I was hitting the ropes. I think it was some sort of a drill, and it was like a duck one, and someone threw a line, and it like kind of tapped me on the top of the head as I went under it. And that did the same thing. And maybe like 2 or 3 other times, it was just like weird things that like, I don't know.
If your arms are going numb for 15 seconds. You might want to.
I mean, yeah, no. I mean, to me, it was just like, oh, I probably have some sort of like a weird pinched nerve, like whatever. Like I felt fine. Like that's the whole thing. It was like I have full mobility of my neck. I feel okay. I feel strong. I was going to the gym every day. I was going, to class every day. I was doing shows at blah 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 blah. So to me, it was like, yeah, it's probably this little thing. I'll take care of it at some point. And then that's when I went and talked to the doctor or the PT at the time. She said, hey, I'm having these symptoms. I'd like to do this. He goes, yeah, okay. The doctor's in. I think. He took a look at it and he was like, yeah, I mean, everything seems fine. You have strength, you have mobility. He goes, let's get an x-ray and an MRI just to be safe. It's your neck. Let's not be stupid. I said, okay, fine. I let Bill know, and Bill was like, okay, let's not, have you trained until we get it officially cleared. Just to
be a pussy or something. No.
Yeah. He slapped me in the face. He pissed on me. He made me eat a donut out of his asshole or whatever that was.
Did squats on the top rope.
Yeah, did a lot of squats on the top rope. I went on the jelly bean wall is what he liked to call it, which like legitimately no one knows what the fuck that means. But
the jelly bean wall?
Yeah, when someone got injured, he'd be like, yep, you're on the jelly bean wall. I was like, no one gets that, Bill. It's like a weird thing that you say. Either way, who cares? And I think I wrestled I got beat up on TV that Thursday, and that was the last time. And then it was maybe 4 weeks later, because I took time to get the x-ray, and the x-ray looked okay, and then they get MRI, and then they had to read the MRI, and they were like, that looks a little weird. So then they flew me to Pittsburgh, and I had another MRI, a different one. I saw their spinal person, and they're like, yeah, it could be this thing. I don't know if it's this thing. You seem okay, blah, blah, blah. They read the MRI. That time it was like a whatever that is, where you bend your neck instead of just lay flat. And when they saw that, they're like, oh, that's bad. That's not good.
You should never wrestle again.
Yeah, you're going to die.
Don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to die. Michael, you're going to die.
We all are someday.
Hey,
that's the point.
Come on.
Long time from now, right, guys?
You're going to give me anxiety here.
Malonis, you're going to die.
Never.
100% chance. 100%.
Never.
So on that note.
So once you got that diagnosis, it was kind of inevitable. And who's the one that was associated with WWE that told you, yeah, you can't do nothing?
That day I remember very vividly.
Yeah.
I was at the Performance Center. I was doing some rehab stuff, and then I think I'd been going to class still, obviously, just, observing. I would stretch out with everybody, and then, they would do their thing, and I would just kind of sit there miserable that I'm just standing around. And I went up to the locker room, and I had grabbed my phone. I saw a missed phone call, and I picked up the phone. It was somebody from the hospital, so I called them back, and I went to the little... It's like a little lounge and like a little meeting room in there. And so I'm in the meeting room, and I called them back, and I talked to one of the assistants to the doctor. He was in the thing. He's a doctor too, but this doctor is so good. He's got other doctors said whatever. I don't know. It's fucking weird.
Right.
And he basically was like, yeah, so bad news. Blah 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 blah. This is better than me telling you over a ventilator, which is a really valid point. And so, he's like, obviously you just don't want to put yourself in that risk, and, one bad thing, this, that, and the other. So that was I think I sat in that room for a good hour or two, just not doing anything.
Yeah.
And then I didn't really know what else to do. So I remember we were doing tape review that day. So it was Billy's class. We went down, there was a big group of us, and we went into the little office, and then there was a little room where they had a TV, and so we popped in the disc, and everyone's just kind of just chit chat bullshitting like we normally do, and I'm just completely just devastated, not what the fuck. And then Bill comes in and grabs me, and it was Bill and Canyon were in the room, and they kind of just said yeah, so did you talk to anybody? And I was like, yeah. So that was a bad day.
Yeah
that was shitty. That was pretty bad, but
But it wasn't the total end of your journey with WWE, I guess, because you ultimately kind of ended up in a very undefined role, right?
Yeah. They kind of had space for somebody. They didn't know what they needed. They wanted somebody to kind of help creatively, also kind of help just administratively. And so I, had said, to both of them, look, not for nothing. Like, if there's anything for this company, like, please let me know. Like, I'm here. Like, what the fuck? And Canyon was pretty honest. He's like, like, most people say that and most people get a no. He's like, I'll give you a strong maybe. I don't know. I mean, we had a pretty decent relationship. And then I was still there. It was really weird because, like, I knew that, but I also was like, we're going to have you stay here and do some whatever PT, which is weird because you really don't do PT if you have an injury. And, like, although I was injured technically, I felt fine. And,
Do you think some of it was like, God,
we don't want to be sued?
Yeah, please don't sue us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, totally. I would not be surprised at all if that played a small to very large part in that. I don't know. It's one of those things. I mean, I think they probably had a good idea that I got hurt in their ring on their show with one of their talent. And, I in all fairness, did have a very good relationship with everybody there. I was, always on time and hardworking and kind of like one of those people like, yeah, we like, you're super reliable and we like love what everything you're doing. And then it was just like, you're next shit. Bye. So I think it was probably a part of both. Certainly the liability factor, I would not be surprised that was like a large part of it. But yeah, I mean, it was just this weird, it was really shit. I shouldn't have, in all fairness, I probably shouldn't have taken the job just because of like where my head was at. I was like personally in a wreck, emotionally, mentally, physically a wreck. I was just like not in a good place at all to be doing that, anything really that was like, there's a new job, jump in with both feet. The only way you're going to be successful is if you really go for it. And it's like, I hate my life right now. This sucks. So, I think that I don't regret doing it. It was probably still not the right idea. Like, I shouldn't have done it. I should have just been like, you know what? I need to like not.
It's tough. You just get that taken away from you. It's tough to then have to stare it in the face every single day,
Every day.
doing something you don't want to be doing while you watch everybody else do what you want to be doing.
I mean, literally, exactly. It's like, hey, come to this place that you really want to be and watch everybody do the thing that you want to do. And like, if like I had a dead arm or something like that, at least it'd be like, well, I got this dead arm, I can't do it. But I was like, I felt fine. I still feel fine. Which, again, knock on wood, it's like, that's great, right?
Right.
But it's just, it was, again, not regretting doing it and seeing more of that side of the business. But, definitely probably was not like helpful in any way to me. It was just like a new experience more than anything else. But it was definitely, I just, mentally I was just in a really bad spot.
So was it kind of a relief when that ended? Or was it still terrible?
Maybe a little bit of both. It's hard to explain because it's like, and this is going to sound really bleak and I don't mean it to be, but it's the reality of the situation. It was like the worst thing ever, followed by like a brief respite and maybe potential, followed by like a kick in the pants when you're down. I was going through a really bad home life situation at the time. I was going through this. I had just moved to a new city. And then it was like, your career, your source of money, your stability in every way is gone. And now also this other thing that could have been a thing, now that's gone too. And so it's just like it's a really helpless situation and really kind of like a groundless, I think, feeling. Like it was just like, well, what the fuck do I do? Because for the first time ever, I think when you're on the indies wrestling and trying to come up, you always have that, I'm going to make it, or I'm going to get there someday, or here's how I'm going to do this, or if I can just get to this point. There's goals, right? You're working towards something. At this point, it had very vividly been just not like, hey, kid, come back in 6 months with some new gimmick, or, get some, dirt on your boots at the road or whatever. It was really like, your neck is shit. We as a company, both morally and like liability-wise, cannot do this. You can kill yourself. So it's like there's no more light at the end of the tunnel, and it's like, well, do you go back to the indies and risk that for literally? I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe you can make a living. I know guys make a living on the indie. That's fine, but it's like, do you do that with the knowledge that I had that my neck isn't in bad shape, or does it like, well, I guess it's restart, and then it's like, well, there might be this little thing, and then it's like, yeah, there's not this little thing. So that was a that was a really bad time for me. I was extremely depressed. I was just again, I was just kind of like shut down. I mean, it's. What do you do,
Yeah. So, I mean, you're in a much better place now, though.
Yeah, I think so overall.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I definitely still entertain the idea of wanting to do something in wrestling. I'm plagued by the fact that as a competitive person, I constantly want to do these things. And although I don't really watch anymore, and that's not like can't watch, it's too painful. It's really just like a symptom of just being really busy. But I'm still friends with a lot of people involved in it. I still see a lot of people who I was with down there on TV now, or I hear about it, or I see it on Facebook. It's awesome. And there's a part of me that's just like, dude, I feel fine. Could probably stand to getting back in shape a little bit more. But it's like, I feel okay. Do I get back in shape and try something, or do I, just kind of let it go and move on to a next experience? But I mean, either way, certainly mentally, I'm a much better place than I was.
Anytime I think something gets taken away from you rather than you leaving on your own terms, like you didn't, and that sucks. Like when you didn't get to leave, you didn't get to say, I'm closing this chapter on my life. It was, no, we're closing this chapter on your life for you. Anytime,
absolutely, especially
something involving a lifelong dream, that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, I mean, and I think especially as athletes, right? I mean, we whether it's a team sport or an individual sport, we're always kind of our own, closed unit at some level, right? It's the work that we put in every day. It's the dieting or the lifting or the travel or all of the above or any of it, really. The training and the dedication to, again, leaving on your own terms. That's a great way to say it. And unfortunately in this business, very few people get to do that. Certainly on like really their own terms. Like we're talking about like Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair and Triple H and whatever. Like these people like, yep, I've done literally everything. I have $1 million. I'm going to retire. Like, great. But, even like at an independent level, to have been able to leave WWE and say, well, I'm going to go put 6-8 months in and use the steam I have off this and have some fun and whatever. Yeah, I mean, that's, again, I very honestly, very, very much wrestle with that, no pun intended, every day. It's, you're right. It's tough to have it taken away. And it was done so respectfully, and it was done so for my own good, I believe. But, it was still not like, come back in 6 months. It was like, you're doing everything right. We like you a lot. You're not good enough. This is not safe. And again, appreciate it. Also, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, though, I hate to leave our listeners with, because by nature, people obviously listeners don't. I mean, some of the guys listen who know you personally. By nature,
Marks.
By nature, though, you're not like a miserable, sulking guy. You're not a bitter guy. You're not a woe is me sort of guy. So I mean, if I know you, I'm guessing you, and I'm sure we've had conversations, and I mean, talk about the positives you took from not only being with WWE, but kind of the journey in wrestling that you have taken.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess that's probably a good thing to mention. Yeah, no, I mean, I am like stupidly lucky to have been able to do the things that I did, right? A lot of people, there are certain people who just like, they cruise into it, they do really great, they make money, they have a great time, and whatever. It's like so rare, though. You look at Kofi's story, and that's not a knock at Kofi. Kofi's fucking awesome. He's a good human being, same human being he was when he walked into the CTC, right? But like, there's a guy who walked in, kind of got it in his own way, got a great opportunity, capitalized on that opportunity, and to this day is capitalizing. That's so awesome to see. It's so easy to normalize that when it's somebody you know, but to realize like, I am so stupidly lucky, to have been able to wrestle for as long as I did, have fun wrestling for as long as I did, get whatever validation there is in having the certain people who were nice to me and good to me and help me, and have the opportunity to work with WWE. See the end of Tampa, the beginning of the Performance Center. See, again, a lot of the guys who are on TV now, The Shield and The Family and Sami Zayn and the Vaudevillains and Enzo and Cass, like these are all guys I rode with. These are people I know. I have experience with them. I watched them as they developed. I was able to develop with them. And, maybe I got taken out of the game before I wanted to be. But like, holy shit, I got that experience. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of guys who don't. And I think I owe it to myself to have a positive outlook. And I also owe it to everybody else to say like, look, you know what? Nobody is better or worse. Nobody is, you know what I mean? It's really just appreciate whatever you get. The famous saying of like the business doesn't owe you anything, but it really doesn't. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it really is just one big show. And the parts that work out and the parts that don't kind of just work out and don't. And there's reasons sometimes, and sometimes there's not. Sometimes people, we talked about Alex Arion. Look at you, Malum Malonis. I mean, for as much as you've done, I understand that you probably wanted to have been signed, but it's not because you're not good enough. It's wrong place, wrong time. You know what I mean? You are clearly still a talented athlete, still someone who is a great entertainer. And it's like certain people get lucky and certain people don't. And if you are fortunate enough to get lucky or you're fortunate enough to not get lucky, I think appreciating whatever that you have, I think that's just super important. And again, as someone who was very lucky, objectively, I try to always look at it from a place of, I'm very lucky. You know what I mean? I'm not paralyzed. That's like super cool with me. Like, I'm really happy about that.
Us too.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that would have like been so much
This
worse.
interview would have been much more of a downer.
Yeah, it's like, you know what? We can't get the chair in the house. It's just like a big thing. It's like, it's not handicap accessible in here. I'm just saying.
It isn't.
OSHA, it's like a big thing. Anyways, no. So, you know, I definitely do always try and ground myself in the positives of and the reality, which is I'm very lucky. I have some great experiences. I have some great memories. I had a lot of fucking fun. I got to do a lot of cool things. And it's like, I don't know. Living without is like never fruitful, right? So I don't want to live without. So I guess, yes, absolutely a positive experience. So lucky to have done it. And, you know, always a fun conversation when whoever finds out, you know, especially nowadays, they're like, wait, you were a wrestler? And then immediately they Google it and it's like, oh my God. And it's like, oh, you know, okay, at least I get something out of it. That's fun, right?
Look at that hat.
Yeah, like, what are you Why is your hair so weird? You're so sweaty.
You were in good shape.
Yeah, no, it's like, who did you eat? Yeah, so.
Well, we appreciate so much having you come by and do this with us. This is probably going to be a 2-part episode at this point.
All right, that's why we do it this way, so we can keep
Jeez,
rolling with
sorry.
good stuff.
No problem at all. We loved it.
You
Loved it.
long-winded bastard.
For more on the Wrestling Podcast About Nothing, subscribe to us wherever you get your favorite podcasts, or find us on our website, thewpan.com. That is thewpan.com.